Long ago, in the land of Egypt, there lived a powerful ruler known as Pharaoh. Pharaoh was rich and had great power, but he was also harsh and treated the people of Israel, known as the Hebrews, very poorly. For many years, Pharaoh kept them as slaves, forcing them to work hard every day, building great cities and pyramids without rest. The Hebrews cried out to God, praying for freedom, hoping that one day they could live in peace and happiness. One day, God heard their cries and sent a man named Moses to lead the people to freedom. Moses was a humble man, but he had a brave heart and deep faith in God. With God's help, Moses went to Pharaoh and asked him to let the Hebrews go. "Let my people go," Moses said to Pharaoh. But Pharaoh was stubborn and refused. He laughed and said, "They are my slaves. I will never let them go." But God had a plan to set the Hebrews free. To show his power, God sent 10 plagues to Egypt. The sky darkened, the rivers turned to blood, and frogs, locusts, and all kinds of troubles came upon Egypt. Pharaoh's people grew scared, and finally, Pharaoh couldn't take it anymore. He called for Moses and said, "Take your people and go." The Hebrews were overjoyed. They packed their things as fast as they could, gathered their families, and began their journey out of Egypt. They walked day and night, excited to be free, and Moses led them. But as they traveled, they came to a great, wide sea called the Red Sea. They didn't know how they could cross it. Some people began to worry, but Moses told them to have faith. God will make a way, he promised. Back in Egypt, Pharaoh was having second thoughts. He thought, "Why did I let them go? They were my workers." Anger boiled up in him, and he decided to chase after the Hebrews to bring them back. He called for his soldiers and ordered his chariots to be prepared. Soon, Pharaoh and his mighty army were racing across the desert, determined to capture the Hebrews. Meanwhile, Moses and the Hebrews stood by the Red Sea, looking out at the endless water in front of them. Just then, they saw a cloud of dust rising in the distance. It was Pharaoh and his soldiers. The people grew afraid and began to cry out, "What are we going to do? Pharaoh's army is coming, and we have nowhere to go." But Moses was calm. He turned to the people and said, "Do not be afraid. Stand firm and see how God will save us today." Moses then lifted his staff, stretched out his hand over the Red Sea, and prayed to God. And then, something incredible happened. A mighty wind began to blow, roaring like a thunderstorm. The people watched in amazement as the waters of the Red Sea started to part. The wind pushed the waters to the sides, creating a dry path right down the middle of the sea. There were huge walls of water on either side, but the ground in between was dry, just like a road. Moses led the way, and the Hebrews began to walk through the sea on this miraculous path. They looked in wonder at the towering walls of water on both sides, with fish swimming inside the walls, yet not a single drop falling on them. It was a journey like none they had ever seen before. As they reached the other side of the sea, they looked back and saw Pharaoh's army rushing into the path. Pharaoh's chariots and soldiers charged into the dry path, eager to catch the Hebrews. But just as the last of the Hebrews stepped safely onto the shore, Moses stretched out his hand over the sea once more. Suddenly, the walls of water began to collapse. The mighty sea came crashing down with a tremendous roar. Pharaoh's soldiers tried to turn back, but it was too late. The chariots, the horses, and the soldiers were all swept away by the waves, lost beneath the powerful, rushing waters of the Red Sea. When the waters settled, the Hebrews stood on the shore, amazed and full of joy. God had saved them from Pharaoh's army. They were finally free. The people cheered and sang songs of thanks to God. They danced with joy, celebrating their new life of freedom. Moses, too, lifted his voice and sang a song of praise, thanking God for saving his people. The Hebrews continued their journey, now with their hearts full of faith and their eyes set on the promised land, the land God had promised them long ago. They knew that, no matter what challenges lay ahead, God was with them, and they would never be alone. And from that day on, the story of how God saved his people at the Red Sea was told again and again, reminding everyone that when they trust in God, he can make a way, even through the sea. The end. If you have enjoyed this story, consider liking this video and subscribing to this channel to get more videos.